Yo, what's going on, people? It's Curtis back with another investment video. If you don't know what to do because you're new, make that like button go blue. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so please subscribe to the channel. If you're new to the channel, Infinite Investors is about helping new and non-investors make sense of the market, and one of the ways I do that is via my portfolio update. So today I think is the ninth installment of a portfolio update. Because I hit 500 subscribers, I did mention I'm going to do another portfolio update. So I wanted to give you guys a bit of a picture of what's happened in the last week on my portfolio. I didn't really think there'll be that much to talk about, but I'm pleasantly surprised. There is actually quite a few talking points. So, hopefully you guys will find value in the conversation today. But let's get cracking. First of all, Verizon. Where is Verizon? Let me go find you. I received a Verizon dividend on the 3rd of May today. Now, I want you guys to exercise a little bit of caution and just, take this recommendation from me. This is the second time that Free Trade hasn't paid a dividend on time. And in fact, the dividend was only paid once I actually contacted customer service. So the actual pay date for the dividend was the 1st of May. It went ex-div on the 9th of April. So only these first two shares at the bottom was going to be included, which I was aware of, which is fine. But I was expecting the money on the 1st of May. I hadn't received it for a couple of days. I contacted customer service. And they mentioned that now it can take 1 to 2 days for a dividend payment to be made. I didn't really buy that, to be honest, because the first two dividend payments came, on time in the morning, bing, bang, bong, straight away. The second two have been a bit delayed. So I do think it's a combination of issues. I do think that they do have a manual process in terms of paying dividends. And so the more stocks on the platform, the more users on the platform is currently an overhead. And so I do think I do think that is a concern, and hopefully they can automate the process and it could become a little bit more smoother. But if you are a dividend investor, or if you do have dividend paying stocks, I did produce a previous video on how I manage and monitor my dividends, so go check that out. The link will be in the description. And just please exercise some caution. So I got ATP, I think it was. So it's not a life-changing sum, but obviously it's still money. Interestingly though, I calculated that I'd get about 1.21, so £1.21, but actually it was actually $1.21. And also then I got the withholding tax. So I mentioned in the video on tax, again the link will be in the description, that US stocks, their dividend payments will be subject to a 15% withholding tax. That tax is unavoidable and it's done at source. So obviously that was taken off as well. So not a big deal because the volumes was quite small, but if you do get £100 US dividend, then you are expecting £85. So it is quite significant from a larger standpoint, but unfortunately there's not much that can be done about it. But yeah, I've got some more dividend payments coming up, so I will monitor it. I'll give it a 3-day grace period, and if they don't pay it within the 1 to 2 days as promised, then I might have to tell somebody off, which I don't really want to do. But I don't want to have to keep on trying to monitor this dividend process as closely as I'm currently doing at the moment. In terms of the rest of my stocks, so the insurance sector has gone up. Both stocks have gone up, and overall insurance sector has gone up, I think, on average by about 2%, which is really, really good. As I mentioned, the insurance sector from the very, very beginning is one of the most sectors that I'm sort of excited about. Both of these two stocks seem very, very undervalued, and they've grown steadily and consistently over the last 6 months. So yeah, I if I look at Simply Wall Street and I check the value of them at the moment, they both still seem undervalued for the next sort of 1 to 3 year period. So I will continuously add to both insurance stocks, Aviva and Legal in general, and I'm expecting dividends from them coming up later on this month as well, which is obviously a really, really positive thing. From a banking standpoint, so I've got Lloyds, CYBG and Barclays. Banking overall has gone up. However, that's predominantly due to Barclays. So Barclays has held up the banking sector. Barclays went up by 1.86%. Again, this is the percentage of growth from the last time I invested, which was about a week ago. Lloyds stayed flat, so there was no movement in Lloyds, and CYBG dropped by 0.5%. So overall, banking went up, but that's predominantly due to a great performance with Barclays. And in terms of another big rise of sentiment, so as you guys saw, sentiment was about 19% in the red, and then it went to about 17%, and then it went to about 9%. I think I bought in again at 9% in the red. It's now 5.62%, so it grew by another 1.1% in the last week. I wish I did buy more when it was at 19%, but my emotions got the better of me and I didn't do so. So again, that is just to exercise caution that when stocks do drop, do consider that a buying opportunity, and think long term, and think that if stocks are continuously rising, you're obviously buying at a higher price, so you need those falls, you need those drops in order to get a discount. So it is important that when you see times where stock is red or when your stock is falling, that consider that an opportunity, which at the time was a bit difficult for me to do, but I've sort of checked myself, and now I know what the right thing to do should it happen again. In terms of fallers now, pretty much everything else probably goes into that category. The housing stocks being Taylor Wimpey and Barratt, they've fallen by cumulatively by 2% altogether. They're still in the green, as you can see. So overall, from the time I started investing, they're still in a positive position in terms of my P&L. But just in relation to last week, it's dropped by another 2%. Telecoms accumulatively, so Vodafone and Verizon have dropped by 1%, but telecoms is a very long-term play for me. I bought these stocks, as I mentioned, because of 5G, and so what I'm trying to do is get as many shares in as possible by the time that 5G launches. And then I believe when 5G launches, when that's in 2019, 2020, whenever that is, these stocks will rise considerably when they're sort of issuing new contracts, new phones, etc., and obviously new tariffs. And so I do believe that one day in the future I will be reporting to you, maybe in portfolio update number 98 or whatever. At some stage in the future, I will be saying, guys, remember when I bought these two stocks? Look how well they're doing now. So hopefully that message will come in the future. But at the moment, they're sort of average or performing a little bit, underperforming a little bit. But I'm not too concerned. I will just continue to buy both of those two stocks, and hopefully my theory will pan out. Imperial Brands, where are you? So Imperial Brands has fallen a little bit. I think about Imperial Brands has fallen by probably about 3% actually overall. And I made a little bit of a mistake actually with Imperial Brands, so I want to be transparent. So in my last round of investing, as you can see here on the 26th, I bought 4 shares of Imperial Brands. That's just my normal dollar cost averaging, so I wasn't really price conscious there. That's just what I do on a normal period, is put £100 towards a stock. But then as you can see, once I put all of my stocks and they've all been executed, I had some money left over, so I decided to buy another share in Imperial Brand. And at the time I purchased it, but obviously I did a basic order, it seemed lower than what the stock price was at the time I did my dollar cost averaging on the 26th. But at the time the basic order was executed, it was actually higher, so obviously it went up that day, which actually meant that this one share was at a higher price than these 4 shares. So effectively it compounded the losses, if that makes sense. So ideally I would have bought it at a lower price because I did think it was falling, and that's the reason why I chose to give it to Imperial Brands rather than another stock. But at the time the order was executed, it rose. Probably something I might not have been able to control, but maybe if I was a bit more investigative with it, I might have been able to notice that and take a different approach. But it's not a big deal. Once it does fall again, I will try and buy some more just to kind of average that out as expected. In terms of my ETFs, I mentioned very clearly in the last video that I bought both ETFs, being S&P 500 and Robo Global. These are the first time I've introduced ETFs into my portfolio. I did expect them to start to fall. As you can see, 7 days they've been falling. I bought them at quite a high point, so I expected both to fall. They both seem quite overbought, so I'm not really that surprised that they're falling. And these are long term, 5, 10, maybe even retirement stocks for me. So I'm not going to be worried about the intra-week or intra-month or even intra-year price swings. These are significant plays. We all know the S&P 500 will rise in the long term, and so I'll just keep that going. And I do have strong hopes for the AI and robotics sector. So that's the reason why I've purchased these two. In terms of the S&P 500, it's worth noting that the fall that has happened over the last week has been the biggest fall over the last 5 weeks. This is due to inflation. So actually, it's not due to inflation, but it's due to a Fed meeting around inflation. So it's a bit more of a hype and hysteria. So what's basically happened is that the Fed have mentioned that the current times of low inflation, which has led to low interest rates, may not last. And so that spooked the markets, and people have started to sell their stocks, and that's why the S&P 500 fell. Now, we don't know when inflation will rise or when interest rates will rise, but obviously that could be at any point. And so obviously because of that, that's the reason why it's fallen. But it's the biggest fall in 5 weeks, but not significant overall. But I have got a video on inflation. I do think it's important for you guys to know how inflation can affect your stock prices and your stock movements, because inflation does have a significant impact. You might wake up and sort of see your stocks have risen or stocks have fallen, and I don't want you guys to panic unnecessarily. So go check out the video on inflation, and hopefully there is a clearer understanding of how that impacts your stock performance. In terms of First Solar, so First Solar had a gargantuan rise over the last month, and so it started to kind of consolidate, and it's fallen a little bit, and it's expected, from a 25% rise over the last month, it's expected that it's not going to obviously continue in that vein. So at the moment, First Solar is I've just maintained it. It's maintained roughly at about the same price, to be honest. I think it's probably about a 1% fall overall from this time to last week, but again, I'm playing it for the long term. It still seems very, very undervalued. Analysts do expect it to go to around the $100, $120 mark within the next 1 to 3 years. So I do feel like it will continue to rise again in the long term. And if it does fall, then obviously, as we all know, that is a buying opportunity. So in terms of my overall portfolio, you're looking at about an average of a 1.46% fall from now till last week. I did mention, if I take, for example, I think Barrett was a good example. My Barrett performance is a 1.99% fall in the last 7 days. It's been 7 days since my last video, and I've calculated it as a 1.99% fall in terms of my personal portfolio. Here I'm seeing 0.5%. I think that's meant to be yesterday, but it's not really clear, especially when I'm clicking on the 1 day tab. There's no data available, but then when I click on the 7 day tab, the 0.5% still stays there, and that's not really clear. And today's not a trading day, so I don't know. And then it says it's fallen by minus 2.8% in the last 7 days, which definitely is not the case, because it's 1.99%. I know the price I bought, I know the price it is today, and it's simple maths, it's quick maths, no big shack, but it's definitely quick maths. So to be honest, these graphs are becoming very, very meaningless now. So between Google Sheets and Simply Wall Street, I do figure out what the accurate figure and pricing is. But some good news from Freetrade is that they are looking at improving their analytics. What they mentioned in their last Freetrade crowdfunding update is that they're doing some work on analytics views to help us make sense of our portfolios a little bit more simpler and clearer. So hopefully that comes soon, and hopefully we can use Freetrade to be able to monitor our performance without having to go to another platform. So let's wait for that. I've got a new series called Stocks to Watch. I wanted to kind of mention that in this video, not just to promote it, well, obviously to promote it, but not just to promote it, because you might see that a stock to watch, or a video that's in a stock to watch, or a stock that's in a stock to watch video rather, it's not in my portfolio. So there's two reasons for that. One reason might be that I've considered stock to watch, not stocks to buy. So this is specifically stocks that I'm watching and monitoring for a specific reason. So because it's on a watch list, it doesn't mean that I'm going to add it to my portfolio straight away. It just means that it's something I'm monitoring because I do see a high growth opportunity for it. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is that it might not actually be available on the platform. So the first video was BYND, Beyond Meat, and it was my stock to watch because of their great IPO performance. However, Freetrade doesn't have IPOs or doesn't get IPOs at the moment. So even though I'm watching it, it's not something I can currently invest in with Freetrade. Now, the only other platform platform I currently use to invest is eToro. Sometimes eToro does get stocks quite early. For example, they got Lyft early, they get a lot of other stocks quite early. However, I'm trying to reduce my holdings within eToro and move it all over to Freetrade. To be honest, I've only got a small amount in cryptocurrency now, so I've reduced all of the equities that I used to have there. That's all gone. I've reduced all of my index funds I've had there. Well, not really index funds, but CFDs, tracking indexes. I've had there, they've all gone now. So if I do find a stock to watch that I really want to invest in at that time, then and it's on eToro, then I'll probably use eToro to perform that investment. But I'm trying not to use it as much as possible, just because their withdrawal fee is extortionate. So obviously I have to invest a lot more money for that to be worth it. But go check out the series of stocks to watch, and hopefully it gives you guys some good ideas of stocks that are good potentials for growth. In terms of dividends, as you guys know, obviously got the Verizon dividend. I've got 6 more dividends coming this month. They range from Barrett being about £10 to Aviva being about £52. So in total about £150 worth of dividends coming in this month, and they're all UK dividends, so there'll be no withholding tax, which is good, and I've calculated it all in pounds, so it should be about that amount. I am going to give Freetrade the 1 to 2 day grace period. In fact, I might for the first one on the 7th actually just wait until the 10th, and if they don't do it by the 10th, then obviously someone might have to have a little conversation with me, because I don't want to keep monitoring it. It's a bit of an overkill in terms of time and effort, etc. But you guys know what I'll do. I'll reinvest those dividends at the end of the month. I hope you found this video useful. I hope you found the information useful. I will leave the links in the description for how I manage my dividends, all the information about withholding tax, information about what I do when stocks fall and where I sort of get the money from in order to add some more. So I mentioned in the 7 tips for beginners that I always have a little spare account of a little bit of cash just in case stocks fall, that I can kind of maximize the interim. But at the moment they haven't fallen enough for me to sort of draw on those funds. And also the video on inflation, I'll put all of those links in the description. If you do have time over this weekend, please have a look at them, and please leave a comment if you've got any questions. But I do think they'll be valuable to helping you guys become better investors. Other than that, have a great weekend. Hope you've got some good plans for the weekend, and obviously I will speak to you very, very soon with another investment video at some point. If you're new to the channel and you've got this far, you must obviously like my voice, probably more than I do, so please hit that subscribe button, and hopefully I can get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm being very ambitious there. Get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the month. Other than that, have a great weekend, and last but not least, happy investing. Take care, guys.